I picked the remote control up and switched channels.
Hey man, I was watching that. Yeah, me too. Switch it back.
It was so annoying living in an orphanage. I never had any time on my own. I was always surrounded by other kids. Okay, calm down. I turned the channel back over. I'm going up to my room anyway. I stood up, but just as I was about to walk out, Mrs. Parker, our warden, came walking in.
Michael, I have some great news for you.
What?
A family wants to come to see you. They are looking for a child to adopt.
My mouth fell open in shock. I was 15 years old. I didn't think anyone would ever be interested in adopting someone my age. But hold up, have you subscribed yet? Quick, do it now. And hit that notification bell so you won't miss out on any more crazy stories. Mrs. Parker had told me to put on my best clothes and go to her office at 3 o'clock. I stood outside her door. My hands were sweating and my stomach was full of butterflies. What if they don't like me? I was trying not to get my hopes up, but I couldn't help but think about what it would be like to have a family of my own. I took a deep breath and knocked on the door.
Come in.
I opened the door and went in.
Hello there, Michael. This is Mr. and Mrs. Jackson.
I looked at the couple sitting at Mrs. Parker's desk. They looked to be in their 40s. The woman was very pretty and the man had a kind-looking face. I smiled at them. Hello.
Hello, Michael. Why don't you come and sit down here so we can get to know each other?
I sat on the chair next to Mrs. Jackson.
Do you have anything you would like to ask us?
Will I have my own bedroom?
Yes, of course you will. And a study room too.
I gasped. Wow, that sounds amazing.
Well, we would very much like it if you would like to be part of our family. Would you like that?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's settled then. Mrs. Parker, if you could make the arrangements, please. Of course. I will get right on to it.
It was about a week after our first meeting that I finally got to go and live with Mr. and Mrs. Jackson. I was so excited when they came to pick me up. All the other kids came to wave goodbye to me. As we drove away, I kept on waving until they were out of sight. It only took about half an hour to reach the Jacksons' house.
Welcome to your new home, Michael.
Oh my God, it's huge. They both laughed at me.
Yes, we are very lucky to live here.
I looked up at the enormous mansion. I couldn't believe that I was going to be living there. It didn't take long to settle in. I mean, who wouldn't be happy living in a place like that? My bedroom was amazing. I had a computer and a television all to myself. No more arguing about what show to watch. I also had to change schools. It was too far to travel to go to my old school. I was a bit nervous my first day at my school. You know what it's like when everyone knows everyone already. But I needn't have worried. Everyone was so friendly. I soon had a big group of friends. It was like I had been at the school forever. I was so happy. My life was perfect. But then, one day, it all came crashing down. I was at school and I was feeling really sick, so my teacher sent me to see the principal.
What's the matter, Michael? You don't look well.
I feel terrible, Mr. Bell.
Well, you'd better go home then. I'll call your parents to come and pick you up.
No, it's okay. I can walk home. I live very close.
Okay then. Well, take care then.
When I got home, there was no one there. They must have gone out shopping or something. I was about to go up to my room when suddenly I heard a sound coming from the dining room. I went over and opened the door. I was expecting to see my parents there, but instead the room was full of what I can only describe as a gang of very sketchy looking men. They were sitting in a circle around a whiteboard. I could see that on it was written, "Bank Robbery Plan." My heart sank and the blood drained from my face. Oh God, I've walked in on a criminal gang meeting. I started to quietly back out of the room, hoping that they wouldn't see me, but I accidentally knocked over a chair, and immediately they all turned to look at me. I knew there was nothing else for it, so I ran out of the room. I'd only gone about 5 meters down the hallway when I felt something hit me in the back. As I fell to the ground, I started screaming, "Help! Help!"
You'd better shut up if you know what's good for you.
I was scared to death. Oh gosh, are they gonna kill me? The man took out a scarf and gagged me. I thought I was going to pass out with fear, but then I saw the front door open and my parents walked in. A feeling of relief swept through my body. Everything will be okay now. My mom and dad will save me. But instead of coming to my aid, they just stood there staring at me. Before I had time to wonder what was going on, I felt a sharp thud to the back of my head and I blacked out. When I woke up, I was tied to a chair and was still gagged. There was no one else there. I started trying to call out, but my words were all muffled. The door opened and my parents walked in. My dad came over and took off my gag. "Mom, Dad, those men are criminals. I saw them planning a bank robbery."
Oh, you shouldn't have seen that, Michael. Why did you come home from school?
I was feeling sick, so Principal Bell sent me home. We have to call the police. We can tell them what they're planning.
No, Michael, we won't be calling the police, and we won't be telling anyone of their plans.
Why not? My parents looked at each other and then turned back to me.
Because they are working for us.
I couldn't believe my ears. You're not serious. Wait, are you telling me you two are criminals? My parents started to get really stressed then.
What are we going to do?
Before they had a chance to say any more, I interrupted them. Are you going to send me back to the orphanage?
Heavens no, darling. We love you.
Then what are you going to do?
There's nothing else for it. You'll have to join our gang.
I thought about it for a minute, but I realized that I didn't have a choice. If I wanted to stay living with them, I would have to do as they wanted. Okay, I will. My dad untied me and the three of us went back to the dining room. The men were still there talking about their plans for the bank robbery. Some of them looked at me suspiciously. I could tell they didn't trust me.
What's he doing here? He's our son and he's joining our gang. We don't need another member. What use will he be?
I knew what I needed to do to win them over, I thought quickly. I know the perfect bank for you to commit the robbery. They stopped what they were doing and turned to look at me.
Go on.
You know the National Union Bank on High Street?
Yes?
Well, I've heard that they have very weak security. It would be easy for you to break in there. The men all looked at each other. Then the man that had hit me on the head stood up and walked towards me. My heart started beating madly. Is he going to hit me again? But instead of punching me, he gave me a couple of claps on my back.
Well done, well done. Looks like you'll be a useful member of our team.
Immediately, the atmosphere in the room changed. The men all started smiling at me and welcoming me to their group. I let out a sigh of relief and began to relax. It looked like everything was going to be all right. The bank robbery was planned for the following Saturday. I had spent the whole week going over and over the plans with the gang. There was nothing that could go wrong. All day at school on Friday, I couldn't stop thinking about the robbery. My friends started to notice that I was acting weird too.
Hey, Michael, what's up with you today, bro? You're acting all on edge.
Nothing. I'm, fine.
Are you sure? You don't seem like your usual self.
Honestly, I'm fine. Probably just a bit tired, that's all. They didn't seem convinced, but they let it go. We usually always hung out together on a Friday night, but I told my friends that I was going to have an early night. I knew that if I spent any more time with them, I might spill the beans about what was being planned for the next day. When I went downstairs the next morning, I found my parents and the rest of the gang finalizing the plans. I wasn't going to be a part of the actual robbery. My parents had said they didn't want me involved.
Okay, so everyone knows their job. Any questions?
Everyone shook their heads.
Okay then, let's go. Michael, you stay here, okay?
Okay, Dad. I watched as they all got into their cars and drove off. But as soon as they were out of sight, I jumped on my bike and sped off after them. I know my dad told me to stay home, but I wanted to see what happened. I stopped my bike in front of a small cafe across the road from the bank and went inside. As I sat there sipping at my Coke, I wondered if I had made a mistake. Everything looked normal over at the bank. No one would suspect that at that moment, someone was inside stealing all of the money. But just as I thought everything was going to plan, something unexpected happened. The air was filled with the sound of alarms going off. I looked out of the window and saw the getaway car pulling up in front of the bank. The next thing, I saw two people running out of the bank carrying bags of money. I immediately recognized that they were my parents. Before they had a chance to get into the car, some policemen that had been in the cafe ran out and grabbed hold of my parents and the other gang members. I watched as they put handcuffs on all of them and arrested them. My heart sank. I was filled with a mixture of sadness and guilt. You see, the reason I had suggested the National Union Bank was not because it had weak security. It was because it was located opposite a cafe that I knew the local police force always had their lunch at. I hadn't wanted to risk calling the police and telling them. I knew that if I had done that, there was a chance that the gang would find out and come back in the future to get their revenge. But now, I had trapped my own parents. I jumped on my bike and raced back home. When I got there, I just managed to get into the house before a police car pulled up. When I opened the door, I feigned surprise. Hello, officer, can I help you?
I am afraid we have some bad news. Your parents have been arrested for committing a bank robbery.
What? No, that can't be true.
I'm afraid it is. They are locked up in jail. They would like to see you.
Of course, yes, I'll get my coat. When I got to the jail, the policeman told me I could go to speak to my parents. When I saw them behind the bars of the cell, I felt terrible. Mom, Dad, are you okay? I can't believe you got caught.
We're okay, darling. We just want to make sure you are okay.
I don't understand what went wrong, Michael. We had the perfect plan. I guess it was just bad luck that those policemen were in the cafe at the time.
I didn't admit that I had known all along they would be there. Instead, I just agreed with my dad. Exactly. I mean, no one could have known.
Anyway, Michael, the reason we wanted to speak to you is to tell you that you don't have to worry about money or anything. We made arrangements before the job to make sure you'd be fine if anything happened to us.
Yes, darling, we are going to be in here for a very long time, so we have left everything we own to you.
You didn't have to do that.
I know we didn't, but we want to. We love you.
I felt so guilty when my parents told me that, but then again, they were criminals, weren't they? But even though I loved living in that big mansion, I couldn't stay there any longer. When I knew they had bought it from the rewards of their criminal life, I sold everything that they had given me and gave all the money to a local charity. I thought that by doing that, perhaps in some way, it might make up for some of the sins my parents had committed. Because I didn't have anywhere to live, I had to go to a foster home. It's nothing like the house that I lived in with my parents, but at least I have somewhere to stay. I'll be turning 18 soon, and I've decided that as soon as I finish school, I'm going to join the army. I want to do something meaningful and worthwhile with my life. I miss my parents a lot. Even though I only lived with them for a few years, they meant the world to me. I wish that things could have turned out differently, but I don't regret what I did. After all, no one should live a life of crime.